Ask Reddit. What moment made you say yep, I'm definitely dead, but survived with no major injuries? Once as a kid I was in the backyard swimming while my family was nearby eating dinner at a round table. Most had their backs to me, but I was like 11 and an experienced swimmer. I got into a toddler's float with leg holes. It ended up flipping over and I was stuck in it. My legs wouldn't come out of the leg holes. I kicked and thrashed as much as I could, but I was so stuck. And you can't hear someone screaming underwater. So many thoughts ran through my head, mostly how sad I was that my parents were about to find me dead in a matter of minutes and how they'd never forgive themselves for allowing me to silently drown as they talked with friends. I tried one more time to kick with all of my might. One leg slipped out and I was able to get the other out after. I was fine. Totally fucking spooked, but physically okay. I was driving home from college on one of those highways with only one lane in either direction and no shoulder. A guy in the oncoming lane didn't see me as I was in a small car. He thought he could pass 4 18-wheelers in one go and pulled into my lane going at least 90. There was nowhere for me to go. He flew off into the ditch to avoid hitting me head on. Likely did severe damage to his car, but I lived. I was drunk and running in the woods when bam, barbed wire and straight to the throat. The last thing I remember I couldn't breathe and was passing out and there was blood squirting from my neck. Woke up an hour later and walked home looking like a murder victim. Boyfriend finally woke me up shortly after we had fallen asleep in a small upstairs bedroom that had a smoldering fire. After we collapsed on the floor and couldn't find the door that was not even 5 feet away, we kept hitting walls and corners and started to not comprehend anything. After feeling like I was baking in an oven, I laid my head down on the floor thinking I'd never see my son again and how sad it was to die. It felt like eternity and felt very lonely. My boyfriend somehow found his phone on the floor, called 911. Fire department showed up in what felt like 2 seconds but couldn't break down the front door. They shined the flashlight up to window so he could kick out the AC unit, which he did. They finally came upstairs and we crawled to them and they took us straight to the burn unit since they didn't know what shape we were in. I'm pretty sure the entire hospital toured through our room since they've never seen anyone make it out and look the way we did. Edit. Holy smokes, I appreciate the love from everyone. I could read and reply all night. I'd totally do an AMA lol. I can't wait for my partner to get home so I can show him this. Thanks guys. Had a paintball fight on Christmas morning with 2 cousins and their neighbor kid at around 13 years old with our brand new guns we got as gifts. The neighbor got mad, ran home, came back with a shotgun, and pointed at my face. All I remember is looking at the ground and waiting to die. Edit. The kid was 11-12. He did have his own paintball gun, and had already shot me a couple times before I got him. He was my cousin's neighbor. I think it was the first time I ever met him. It was 20-ish years ago, as I'm 33 now, so I can't even remember if I told my parents. I don't know if anything happened to him or not. I'll ask my cousin. Edit 2. Cousin said we never told parents. Maybe we were scared of retaliation. I know I never touched that paintball gun again though. How to tell someone that you are American without actually telling that you are American? I had leg cramp and a momentary blackout when swimming in a diving pool when I was 16. I was really active that I overexert my limit. Surprisingly I didn't really panicked. Just the dreadful thought, oh shit, I'm fucked. Funny thing is that I didn't really wiggle my hands out of the pool panickingly like I usually see in the TV, just silently sinking. Good thing the pool guard on duty noticed me and went for my rescue by pulling me out. Really wish I thanked the guard more that he saved me instead of me cluelessly sitting outside the lobby after the accident. Tire popped going over a 2-lane road with steep drops on both sides. My car jerked to the side hard, and my car went sideways. Half my car hung over the side and luckily it's low so it bottomed out. I climbed into the back seat and jumped out the back door. Some dude in a truck pulled me out and I drove on a flat to the other side and swapped my tire out. I swear it's always some dude in a truck ready to help. They're either the best people ever or jerks. My friend and I just spent a few days at a beach shack. My friend just got her P plates. She was super excited so she wanted to drive us home. This was one of her first times driving alone. Being 17 we didn't really see an issue. I rang my dad beforehand and told him I was getting a lift. He said I don't think you should do that. I can come pick you up. I can drive some of the girls home too. I think you guys should wait until she's had more experience. Of course, being 17, thinking I knew everything, I said it was fine and I was hopping in her car. We were on our way home, playing music and chatting. There were 5 17-year-olds in this car. I was sitting behind the driver's seat. My friend pulls out onto a 2-1 expressway from a country road, like an intersection. We notice she's turned the wrong way and tell her to make a U-turn. She pulls to the side and decides to go for it, through 2 lanes. She didn't check her mirrors properly and a large truck was coming up behind us. My friend got frightened and put her foot on the brake in the middle of both lanes. We were all screaming at her to keep driving, but she was frozen. I remember, it was like slow motion. I looked at every single one of my friends. We all kind of shared a moment of fear, like this is it I guess. The exchange looks haunt me tbh. We could hear the truck horn blaring at us. I looked out my window to the truck driving toward us. I locked eyes with the truck driver. Luckily the truck stopped about 5 meters away from us. She pulled away and was really upset. The car was silent the entire way back. It was honestly the scariest moment. I am from a really small town and I think losing 5 people at once would really rock it. Seeing my friends' faces in that moment, it was actually horrific. I did have a moment of okay, here comes the truck. It was oddly peaceful. After that day I have a real understanding that I'm mortal and can go at any minute. Oh, and to trust my dad. Edit. I never told my dad. I was too scared. Also, my friends and I never spoke of the incident again. Edit 2. We were coming off a country road and turning onto a 2-lane expressway. She turned left when we were meant to turn right. She pulled over and tried to make a U-turn so we could go in the right direction. But she didn't look behind her before turning. She then braked and stopped in the middle of the road. So we were sideways on the expressway. Parachute deployed but failed to open. That was one of those moments. Then training kicked in. Cut away, failed chute, deploy secondary. But for a brief moment life was about to be over in my mind. How long do you have before you hit the ground in free fall? Edit. Oh my god guys, I get it, you have the rest of your life, ha ha ha. That question has many answers. Depends on height and so on. But on average a human falls at about 200 fps. Feet per second. From 14,000 feet free fall time would be about 50/60 seconds. Oh, I actually have a story that fits. I was coming home from a party at 2 AM in 2016 and made a conscious choice to drive through town rather than take the big highway that skirts the city limits. It would add like 10 minutes to the trip, but hey, it was the first time I'd been back in ages. That decision literally almost killed me. Not even 5 minutes after that, the 3-lane highway, really just a wide road, passed in front of them all, and there was a signal light there. Well, some drunk idiot decided to turn right into the mall from the far left lane, and I was in the middle lane. I had absolutely no time to stop, so I slammed into the side of his car at 65 miles per hour. I remembered yelling SHITTT and trying to keep control of the wheels to get the car off the road onto the grass before I blacked out for a few minutes. The airbag and the seatbelt combined had fractured my sternum, which took the air out of my lungs and made me faint, I guess. But it didn't feel like I woke up, more so like my vision came back into focus and I was aware. But those few moments I was still kind of conscious and in immense pain. Worst I've ever felt in my life. I hurt from the skin on the soles of my feet to my scalp. Every single inch was in pain and I was like, so I'm dead. This is my body telling me I'm dead. So when I came to, heat hit me cause my car was fat and the engine was as hot as standing in a fire. So I was convinced my car was about to go up. It didn't. So I tried to get out, but the door was wedged shut from the crash and I started to panic. I put my back against the passenger seat and kicked the door over and over until it opened and climbed out. Every single police officer, EMT, and even the tow truck guy took one look at my car and told me you shouldn't have walked away from that crash at all. The fact that all you have is a fracture and some lacerations is a literal miracle. So yeah, that's how I almost died and thought for sure I was dead, but got lucky. When I was about 16, I was mowing some lawns over the summer to make a little extra cash. One guy hired me to mow his lawn. He seemed nice enough, like a kindly old hippie who lived alone. I get to his house and he invites me in to give me some yard equipment. Once I step inside, He closes and locks the door behind me. He says just locking the door to keep the bugs out. Wait, what? He leads me through his house and starts saying all this weird stuff. I don't know what you've heard about me around the neighborhood, but none of it's true. I'm straight as an arrow. We get to his basement door. I keep the mower in the basement, probably should have hightailed it out of there then, but as a polite teenager, I followed him down the stairs into the dark basement. Once I get down in the basement, and my eyes adjust to the darkness, I start to get really scared. The entire basement has been plastered in 1970s Playboy nude centerfolds, but they've all been chopped up, missing heads, missing limbs. That's when I turn around and see the guy emerging from the darkness wielding a machete. That's when I was sure I was going to die. I just didn't know if he would hack me up right then and there, or lock me in the basement and torture me for a few days. My fight or flight response was about to kick in, but then he hands me the machete and tells me to use it to cut back the kudzu. Huge relief. I mowed his lawn and cut back his kudzu, and the whole time I could see him watching me out the window. Finished as fast I could and got the hell out of there. He called me a few times in the next weeks to mow his lawn again, but I never picked. Eventually, he moved away. To this day, not sure if he was an actual serial killer or just a kooky old man who didn't understand how creepy he was. I was a senior in high school, and the student club I was in organized an unofficial beach trip towards the end of the year. No teachers or official permission, leaving me and a few other seniors in charge of supervising everything. After a couple hours worth of fun, one of the other students came running up to me and said that 3 of the younger members of the club had been swept out by a riptide and couldn't get back towards the shore. Me and 2 other of the older students, all experienced swimmers, immediately went to go help them. My friends got 2 of the 3 kids in trouble and started guiding them parallel to the shore to get them out of the current. But the guy I went for was panicking, barely staying above the water, and started dragging me down with him almost immediately. I yelled for people to get a lifeguard and tried to keep both of us afloat, but after a few minutes, maybe 5, maybe 10, it felt like forever. I was getting exhausted, having trouble keeping both of us above the water, and I couldn't see anyone coming to the rescue. I started getting big mouthfuls of water and my leg muscles were starting to cramp up, and I remember thinking, holy shit, I might actually die right here, right now, as the current started pulling us further and further away from where everyone was. Thankfully for everyone involved, one of the students on the beach had flagged down a couple of surfers, who made their way out to where we were as quickly as they could and hauled first the younger student and then me onto the front of their boards and took us back to shore. I'll always be thankful and appreciative for those strangers who put themselves in the dangerous position of rescuing 2 drowning swimmers. Edit. As several people have pointed out, it's not uncommon for people to die doing what I did. That is, swimming into the water to rescue a drowning swimmer without training or equipment. There are a few techniques for rescuing someone drowning in the comments that everyone should learn if they're ever in the unfortunate situation of having to use them. I should have used them, but I was 17 and not thinking straight at the time and almost paid the price because of it. When I accidentally got drugged at a party because I drank the drink of a female friend, I left for home on my own and fell from my bike 5 times and landed in the bushes next to the road. I threw up everything I had inside me and was so disoriented that I couldn't get up anymore. I slept through the night in the bushes while it was 13°C out, and had multiple occasions where I thought I would die. Called emergency numbers multiple times but they wouldn't come and eventually got picked up by a taxi chauffeur that brought me home after laying in a wet bush for 8 hours. I couldn't leave my bed for 3 days after that. Only thing I'm happy about in that experience is that the female friend didn't drink it and got home safely. In one of my first solo flights, when Cessna's pilot door opened during a turn and my belt was the only thing between my ass and the ground, 2,000 feet away. Whoa. As a fellow pilot I can tell you that should not happen. As someone who is not a pilot, I also can confirm that the plane's door should be closed. I was running down a hill after rain when I was a kid, about 8, and slipped and fell. I jarred my spine pretty bad and couldn't move my arms or legs. I couldn't speak. All I could do was suck in air, whilst making some pretty horrific noises in the process. The teacher sat with me and shooed away all the gawking kids while she rubbed my back and said nice things. No idea why nobody called an ambulance. Honestly, one of the most terrifying hours of my life. though I cannot explain how happy I was when my limbs started working again. Also, when I was about 23, there's an ocean pool near where I live, man-made, and during big seas it basically turns into a vortex of hell. Some friends and I went down there and arrived when it looked fairly placid. We jumped straight in and paddled around, as you do. Then the next set of waves started coming in. On the ocean side of the pool, the waves were trying to suck us back out to sea. On the cliff side, it was trying to turn us into mincemeat. I got halfway across the pool when I realized a friend of mine with no experience with ocean swimming was struggling, so went over to help. I made him swim to the middle of the pool with me to wait for the set to pass, and we managed to get out once it calmed down again. There were some bruises and cuts, but way better than the alternative. Edit. To those asking, an ocean pool is a pool next to the ocean and filled with seawater. Think rock pool, but bigger and less natural. This is kind of similar to the pool in question, but not maintained like this one. Think no ladder stairs to get in, a lot more seaweed and sharp barnacles. In theory, it's a great way to swim in the ocean without actually swimming in the ocean, to avoid sharks and other fun things trying to kill you. In practice, after big seas, sharks get washed in fairly often. You don't know. That's the fun part. It has nothing to do with injuries, but I think it pertains to this post. It was the moment I injected heroin into my vein. I knew it was too much about 2 seconds after I did it. At that point it was too late. There was no going back. My girlfriend at the time was in the other room. I had no idea if she was going to come back in time. I knew I was going to overdose. All of those thoughts happened in a matter of 2 seconds. Then in the blink of an eye, I am in the hospital with an IV in me with doctors standing over me. Luckily, as my girlfriend told me later, she came back in the room and I was light blue and cold to the touch. She called 911 and a fire truck had luckily been around the corner. They picked me up. She told me that I had flatlined and they had to shoot me with Narcan to bring me back. After spend 20 minutes at the hospital, I ripped the IV out, got dressed, and went out and used again. I am grateful to say that I am 2 years sober as of last month. My friend put me in a fold-out couch when we were 12. Unaware of how to get me back out because of the weight and pressure on me, I started to panic and scream, making it worse. He cut me out of the center of it like a burrito C-section. My friend's stepfather was an extremely abusive drill instructor. The beating he took was terrible. But that's my story. Emergency C-section from a fold-up couch. Edit. Wow. I normally get a ton of hate, and this actually made me feel good. Thank you guys and gals. That was extremely sweet. Logan, my friend at 16, finally started to fight back, and the first fight he won he was immediately kicked out. He lived with me and my family for years until he got himself stable on his own. That was 21 years ago. He's still my good friend. Just life itself has separated us. I had an idiot friend and we were hiking. We got to this waterfall and he goes, dude, let's climb it. I said, no way. He says, well, I'm gonna do it and if I fall and die it's on you for not coming. So I climbed it with him. Got stuck halfway up on a slick ass rock. Pinched a nerve in my shoulder, so my right arm was useless. I thought I was certain to slip off the rock to my doom, but we managed to get me unstuck. That was the beginning of the end for that friendship. When I was a kid I was playing hide and seek with my siblings and I got the brilliant idea to hide in the trunk of the car. I meant to leave the trunk barely open so that it didn't latch, but accidentally closed it too far and it latched. Mind you, this was before they put handles in cars to open trunks from the inside, so I was legitimately stuck. It was almost completely dark, so I started seriously freaking out and I thought I was going to die. So I started yelling for help as loud as I could and was kicking at the back seat thinking maybe I could break the latch that keeps the seat from folding. I was probably only in there for about 5 minutes before someone heard me and let me out, but it felt like an eternity. To this day I firmly believe it was because of this incident that I developed some minor claustrophobia. I still have serious fears about being in small, cramped and dark areas. One of my most surreal experiences of my life, I had a lot of weird ones around this time, was riding my bike on the sidewalk next to an extremely busy road at night. I hit something on the sidewalk, I don't know what, and tumbled sideways into the street. As I fell, I saw the road light up from headlights from a car behind me, and when I hit the asphalt, I just lay there because I knew I couldn't get out of the way in time. After a second or so I wasn't dead, so I looked around and the street was empty. It wasn't empty when I fell. There were cars going in both directions. That was 20 plus years ago and I'm still not entirely convinced that I didn't die. It's possible that I imagined the headlights, but that road is never empty like it was. It's a major street in a major city. It always has cars on it, even at 3 AM. It was the first of many experiences that led me down a path of questioning the nature of reality. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe for more Reddit content.